Have you ever stopped to think about what it really means to be a bodybuilder? Most people assume it's just about hardcore training and taking supplements, or even steroids. But the truth runs way deeper, and honestly, a lot darker. The real question is, do you actually know what it takes to build a stage-ready physique? Maybe it's time to rethink that. When we picture bodybuilding, we usually imagine sculpted bodies, gym selfies, and protein shakes. But that's just the surface. Behind the cameras and the stage lights, there's a grind filled with brutal sacrifices, non-stop pressure, and an almost obsessive chase for perfection. And that's where the darker side of the sport starts to show. Picture living in a world where every single meal is weighed down to the gram. Every hour of sleep matters, and every workout isn't just effort. It's a showdown against your own limits. This isn't some glamorous lifestyle or just about looking good. It's a daily, silent war that takes a huge toll on both body and mind. And very few people really grasp just how heavy that burden is. Here's the deal. In this video, we're going way past steroids and the stuff you've already heard. We're pulling back the curtain on the hidden truths, the invisible costs, and the backstage reality that almost never makes it to the public eye. So buckle up, because what you're about to see might completely change the way you look at bodybuilding, from the bright stage lights to the shadows of everyday life. Whenever people talk about bodybuilding, the spotlight almost always lands on steroids. It's like the entire sport gets reduced to that one thing. But that's only part of the picture, and not even the most crushing part. The real cost of chasing perfection goes way beyond needles and vials. It hides in the silent battles of the body and the mind. Yeah, steroids get attention, but the sacrifices you don't see, those cut deeper. We're talking about constant aches, a level of discipline that pushes human limits, and a mental pressure that most people couldn't handle. It's nights of broken sleep, strained relationships, and a lifestyle where there's no room for winging it. Every single detail is controlled, and the smallest slip can wipe out months of progress. Social life takes a hit too. While most people are out celebrating birthdays, going to dinners, or hanging with family, the bodybuilder is saying no to invites and cutting themselves off just to stay focused. That isolation breeds loneliness, distance, and often frustration from loved ones who just don't get it. In this world, the sacrifice isn't only physical, it digs deep into the emotional side. And then there's the body itself. Injuries pile up, joints wear down, and even internal organs take a beating from the extreme lifestyle. It's like living on the edge 24/7. Your body's a fine-tuned machine, but one that can break down at any moment. Chasing perfection doesn't forgive mistakes, and every trophy on stage comes with invisible scars. So here's the million-dollar question. How far can a human really push in the name of perfection? If bodybuilding has a silent battlefield, it starts on the plate. Contest prep diets go way beyond clean eating. Here, every gram of carbs, protein, or fat is measured with surgical precision. The goal isn't just eating healthy. It's manipulating nutrients so the body reaches razor-thin body fat levels and maximum muscle definition. Sounds simple, but living it is painful and comes with heavy consequences. These diets don't just drain the body, they mess with the mind. Severe calorie cuts create cravings so intense that a single slice of bread can become an obsession. Mood swings are inevitable. Irritability, anxiety, even deep sadness creep in. Eating stops being a pleasure and turns into a calculated duty, lived under constant pressure. And it's not only mental. This obsession with food slams social life hard. Imagine being invited to a family dinner or a party and not being able to touch a single thing on the table. Instead, you're pulling out your own meal containers, weighing every portion, or just skipping the event altogether to avoid the awkwardness. The discipline needed to shine on stage ends up building walls in everyday life. Over time, that isolation charges a steep price. Relationships strain, friendships fade, and even family ties can grow cold. What should be a moment of celebration turns into another test of willpower. It's an invisible sacrifice, but one that hits just as hard as the heaviest set in the gym or the sharp sting of any drug. At the end of the day, that strict meal plan shows the diet is way more than just eating healthy. It's giving up some of life's most basic pleasures in exchange for a few fleeting seconds of glory under the stage lights. When people think of bodybuilding, the first image is usually heavy lifting in the gym. But what most don't realize is that the grind goes way beyond pushing weights. The workouts are intense, high volume, and often push the body well past healthy limits. That means constant muscle soreness that never fully goes away, frequent injuries, and physical wear and tear piling up day after day, like a bill the body always has to pay. And the routine only gets harsher when you add in recovery, or the lack of it. A lot of athletes, driven by discipline or the fear of falling behind, sacrifice sleep and ignore the red flags of exhaustion. Running on little rest and still training becomes a habit, but it wrecks overall health, hormones, and the ability to bounce back. On stage, the physique might look flawless, but behind the scenes, constant fatigue is a shadow that never leaves. Then there's something hardly anyone talks about: posing practice. To the audience, it looks like a quick showcase under bright lights. But backstage, it's hours upon hours of grueling rehearsal, where every angle, every contraction, every bit of posture has to be sharpened to perfection. It's silent work, but it drains just as much energy as lifting iron. And it's not just for show. Posing can make or break an athlete. Nail it, and you're standing on the podium. Miss the execution, and months of work can vanish in an instant. To hit that level of polish, bodybuilders push through cramps, aching joints, and even dizziness from holding poses for too long. It's hidden torture, tucked away behind the glamour of stage lights. But if the body already takes a beating, the mind lives on a battlefield of its own. One of the biggest enemies is body dysmorphia, that relentless feeling that you're never big enough, never lean enough. Even with massive muscles and physiques that turn heads, many athletes look in the mirror and see only flaws. That obsession with an unreachable ideal twists self-image, fueling insecurity and making the journey even heavier. The pressure never eases up either. There's the constant fear of losing progress, of weeks of grind slipping away from a missed meal or skipped workout. Add to that the weight of outside expectations, sponsors, fans, and judges demanding your best every single time. That nonstop pressure builds an invisible load, one that can crush even the most disciplined athletes. And when the competition's over, a new challenge hits: post-show depression. For months, the athlete's entire world revolves around hitting peak condition. But after the lights fade, the body has to return to a more balanced state. For many, that transition feels devastating. It means losing sharp definition, dialing back intensity, and accepting a less perfect look. That sudden drop hits the emotions hard. Learning to cope with that phase often brings emptiness, discouragement, even identity crises. Who are you outside of the stage? How do you reconnect with normal life after devoting yourself to such an extreme, almost superhuman ideal? It's a struggle many athletes keep quiet about, but it's very much part of the reality. Through all of it, the sacrifices, the pain, the pressures, it's impossible not to admire the resilience of bodybuilders. They're unsung warriors who, despite restrictive diets, brutal training, and silent mental battles, keep pushing toward their goals. Every time they step on stage, they're not just showing muscles. They're telling the story of a daily fight against limits most people would never dare face. These athletes teach us about discipline, dedication, and the power of pushing beyond what seems possible. They prove strength isn't just physical. It's also about enduring challenges that stretch the human spirit. They show how passion can drive someone to break barriers, even if it means chronic pain, personal sacrifices, and long stretches of solitude. That resilience is a legacy that inspires far beyond the sport itself. But, like every war, the scars remain. The long-term consequences can't be ignored. Stress on vital organs, hormonal imbalances, and overall wear on health are common in those who live years under this extreme lifestyle. The pursuit of perfection comes with a bill, and often, it doesn't show up until much later. It's the invisible debt these warriors carry long after the stage lights go out. That's why it's so important to change the way we look at these athletes. They're more than just sculpted bodies. They're people who've sacrificed their health, their social lives, and their peace of mind to live out their passion for the sport. Recognizing that human cost is also a way of honoring their story, valuing not just the trophies, but the sacrifices hidden behind the scenes. And that's the real legacy, remembering that every impressive physique carries a story of effort, pain, and resilience. Instead of judging or oversimplifying their choices, We need to see the humanity behind the muscle. In the end, maybe the greatest lesson bodybuilding leaves us isn't about strength, but about how far someone is willing to go for a dream. After everything we've uncovered here, it's clear that bodybuilding is about way more than steroids or what you usually see on social media. It's a world shaped by invisible sacrifices, silent battles, and a level of discipline that pushes beyond normal limits. Behind every jaw-dropping physique lies a story of sacrifice, struggle, and perseverance that deserves respect. And that's exactly why we need to shift our perspective. Instead of only seeing the muscle, we should see the person. Athletes who put everything on the line for a dream, facing physical pain, emotional pressure, and social isolation in the pursuit of perfection. Acknowledging that reality is an act of empathy and a way to value human effort. Each pose on stage might last only a few seconds, but it carries months, or even years, of extreme dedication. So the next time you admire a sculpted physique, remember, it's not just aesthetics. It's the mark of a brutal journey and sacrifices most people would never dare to make. That reflection might just change the way we all see the sport. Now I want to hear from you. After seeing this hidden side of bodybuilding, what surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective and keep this conversation going. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and bring more content like this. If you'd like to support even further, consider becoming a member and joining our exclusive community. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do it now and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Oh, and don't leave without checking out the video that's popping up right there on your screen. I'm sure it's going to surprise and inspire you even more. See you there.